Have you ever felt like you just didn't belong? Like you were sitting in a room full of people, but somehow it felt like you were invisible. Maybe you were just a child, looking around and wondering why the world felt so strange to you. While others laughed and played without a care, you felt things more deeply, you noticed things others missed, you carried emotions on your shoulders without knowing why, and sometimes that feeling followed you into silence, like a quiet ache in your chest you couldn't explain. You may have looked at your own hands and wondered what they were meant for. You may have cried yourself to sleep without being able to tell anyone why. And you may have asked yourself over and over, why am I like this? Why does it hurt so much just to be me? But what if I told you that pain had a purpose? That confusion, that sense of being different, that early weight on your soul was never random. What if I told you it was a sign? You see, there are people in this world who are chosen not for comfort but for transformation. People who are shaped not in ease but in silence. Their journey begins long before the world even notices them. Allah doesn't announce their path with applause. Instead, He begins with stillness, with a restlessness deep inside the soul that refuses to accept what everyone else settles for. He places a whisper in the heart, a longing for more, a quiet pull toward meaning. Maybe you didn't understand it as a child. Maybe you thought there was something wrong with you. But looking back now, maybe that feeling of not belonging was never a flaw. Maybe it was a fingerprint, a divine mark that you were meant to walk a path unlike the rest. There are some souls Allah hides from the crowd, not to punish them, but to prepare them. He removes the noise so they can hear Him more clearly. And if you're one of them, you'll know. Because even when you tried to fit in, something in you resisted. Even when you were surrounded by people, you felt alone. Even when everything seemed fine on the outside, your heart kept searching. That's not an accident. That's not weakness. That's the beginning of a calling. And today, we're going to walk through those early signs together. Signs that were quietly present in your childhood, but only now you're finally starting to understand. Do you remember being young and asking questions no one else seemed to care about? While others were busy chasing games and laughter, you sat quietly, wondering why people hurt each other, or why your heart felt heavy for things others brushed off. You weren't trying to be different, you just were. Something inside you was always reaching for deeper meaning, for truth, for purpose. Maybe you felt a strange sense of responsibility even when it wasn't yours to carry. You were the one who noticed when someone else was sad. The one who stayed quiet during chaos, the one who felt guilty for things that weren't even your fault. You may not have had the words back then, but your soul was already learning, already listening, already sensing that you were not like the others. This is one of the most powerful signs, the early sensitivity to life's depth. Not everyone gets this. It's not something you can teach. It's something Allah plants within certain hearts, a restlessness that keeps searching, a conscience that speaks louder than the crowd, a sense that there is more to this life than what meets the eye. It might have made your childhood harder. You may have cried more over things no one else even noticed. You may have stayed awake at night wondering what your purpose was. And sometimes you may have even felt broken, like there was something wrong with you for feeling so much, for caring so deeply. But that sensitivity wasn't your weakness, it was your training. When Allah chooses a soul for something greater, He starts early, before the world claps for you. Before the blessings arrive, before even you know what you're becoming, He begins by softening your heart, because only a soft heart can carry heavy truths. Only a compassionate heart can guide others through darkness. You may have looked at yourself and thought, why can't I be like them? Why do I have to feel everything? But now you're beginning to see that early depth, that emotional awareness. It wasn't an accident, it was preparation. Allah was tuning your heart to a different frequency, one that would hear His whispers in the middle of noise, one that would stay awake while others slept, one that would carry wisdom wrapped in wounds. So if you were the quiet one, the deep thinker, the child who noticed too much, understand this. You weren't strange, you were chosen. Think back to the times you tried your best and it still wasn't enough. You studied hard but failed the test. You gave your heart to someone who didn't stay. You prayed for something with all your soul, only to watch it slip through your fingers. And maybe it started early. Rejections you couldn't explain, friendships that broke for no reason, situations where it felt like you were always left behind. You didn't know it then, but you were experiencing something only the chosen endure. Setbacks that feel deeply unfair, but are quietly sacred. Most people see closed doors as failures, but when Allah is guiding your life, those closed doors become some of the most powerful signs of His love. Not because they didn't hurt, but because they protected you from something you couldn't see. You may have wanted that opportunity so badly. You may have begged for that relationship to work. But Allah's mercy isn't always in what He gives. It's often in what He takes away. When you're chosen for something greater, your path will look different. Allah won't always let things come easily. He'll allow you to fall, not to break you, but to teach you where your strength really comes from. He'll delay your blessings not to punish you but to build your patience, your faith, your trust. And most of all, he'll close certain doors because he's preparing you for one that only opens with his command. You see, pain has a way of waking us up. When we get everything we want, we grow comfortable. But when life denies us, when things fall apart, that's when we turn to him fully. That's when the layers peel away. That's when the real connection begins. That heartbreak you endured as a teenager. That moment when someone made you feel worthless. That year you felt left behind while others moved forward. Every single one of those setbacks was a sign, not of your failure, but of your preparation. You were being trained to walk a path most people wouldn't survive. And the only way to carry that kind of purpose is through the fire of rejection and loss. The chosen aren't given comfort, they're given calling. And a calling requires strength. Not the loud kind, but the quiet kind, that grows when no one is watching. The kind that gets back up again after crying all night. The kind that keeps moving even when nothing makes sense. So the next time you look back at your life and ask, why did that happen to me? Try asking this instead: what did Allah protect me from? What was He building inside me? Because every unanswered prayer, every delayed blessing, every silent pain may have been your soul being shaped for something far greater than you can yet imagine. Do you remember the people who once stood beside you, only to disappear when you needed them most? Maybe it was a friend you trusted, someone who said they'd always be there until you struggled. Maybe it was a family member who didn't understand you, who dismissed your pain as overthinking or weakness. Or maybe no one really walked away, they just never truly showed up when it mattered. It hurts, doesn't it? That feeling of being surrounded yet alone. But what if I told you that too was part of the plan? One of the signs that you were chosen from an early age is that life slowly reveals who's real and who's not. And this doesn't always happen loudly. Sometimes it happens in silence, in unanswered messages, in long pauses, in moments of heartbreak when the ones you expected to catch you simply didn't. You may have blamed yourself. You may have asked, what did I do wrong? Why am I always the one left behind? But this isn't punishment, it's purification. You see, Allah removes what you don't need before He gives you what you do. He clears your path of people.